Welcome back to the channel. My name's Tom, and today I'm back with part 2 of my personal collection video. Today we're going to be doing everything other than my glasses pretty much. So we'll be doing a lot of toys, buttons, pins, scale models, telephones, more scale models, more toys, and pretty much everything else you can imagine. So let's take a look. So in my first video, I went through most of my character glasses and some of my toys and a few other random things. Well, today I'm going to go through everything else, which is mostly toys and collectibles, I would say, and also some telephones and other things, which we'll take a look at. So let's get to it. Alright, so first up, I have this picture here that I got at a flea market, an indoor flea market up in Sturbridge, Mass, I think. It's of Epcot Center from 1982, which is when Epcot opened. It was only $8, which I thought was a really great deal. And it's hard to tell, but it might be sun faded. I'm not sure because it's very purple and pinkish. So I don't know if it looked like that originally or if it's just been in the sun too long, but I really like it. Then over here I've got some Jeffrey plushes, which were from the new Toys R Us stores that are within Macy's. So these are new. These are from 2023. Got the birthday Jeffrey, regular Jeffrey, and the Christmas Jeffrey. And I got those on sale. I bought them after the holidays, so maybe in February or March, I think. And I paid very little for them, maybe $5 a piece. And I also got the big one, which is about 3 feet tall. And he was originally, I think, maybe $40, and I ended up paying something like under $20. I forget what it was exactly, but it was a really good deal. All right, and then down here in these display cases, I have most of my small stuff for the most part, and it's very random. So I got a 8mm film there, W.C. Fields. I believe that's probably from the, might be 50s or 60s. I don't think it's super old, but it's definitely vintage. And then these little televisions are cool. They're the type of thing where you look in them and you can see a little picture when you hold it up to the light. And I just thought they were really cool because they look like old televisions. The one on the left is from, looks like scenes from Puerto Rico, and the one on the right is scenes from Washington, D.C. These are some stone, well, it's a stone egg on the left, and on the right it's an actual egg that's been painted. These were my grandmother's. So I don't really know much about them other than that they were hers, and I got them a few years back. And I've got some Matchbox battleships from the 70s, and these cars in the front are Tootsie toys. I believe from probably the early 70s, just based on the design of the cars. And then these, I think I showed these in one of my Stormville videos. These are little cars that were given out at car dealerships way back, I would guess in the 40s, maybe 30s? Not sure what year that car would be. That looks more like 40s to me. But these were given out with your car, and it says, here's the car you've been waiting for, deluxe model. And I thought these were really cool. So I got 3 of them, all different colors. If anybody has more history on these, please let me know in the comments. Then down here I've got some Matchbox king-size trucks from the, I think, late 60s into the 70s. They're not in the best condition. As you can see, a lot of them are missing their tires. You can get replacement tires, though, so I might do that someday. But I got all of these. These came in a box together at the Brody Park Flea Market a couple years ago for $5. So I paid $5 for everything right there, which I thought was an amazing deal. And then this here, this is a promotional piece from the movie Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio, where the top was a big thing in the movie. And I used to work with somebody that did promotion for the movie theaters. I forget exactly what her role was, but it was something like that. And occasionally she'd bring me these promotional items, and this is one of them. So I think that's really cool. And it says on the bottom, InceptionMovie.com, if you can read that. It's hard to see. All right, moving along, we've got a, this is an Erdl F-15 toy from, I think this is late 80s. And I think they made the same one into the early to mid 90s. But I had one just like this when I was a kid. I actually had the whole set. I had I think there was an F-14. There was a stealth fighter. And I think an A-10. A whole bunch of them. And of course I got rid of them as a kid. This one's not in the best condition. It does have some corrosion, but I just had to pick it up because it brings back a lot of memories. Got some really big Coke bottles here. This is a 2-liter Coke bottle. I think it's from the 70s. And then this is a 1-liter. The reason I bought these was because by the time I was old enough to know what Coke was, I don't think they were selling Coke in glass bottles anymore. I'm pretty sure they'd switched over to plastic by then. So while these might be very common, I just don't run across them much. I don't see them much at flea markets, and I never really saw them as a kid, so I just find them fascinating. And then I got this at the Elephant's Trunk not too long ago. It's from Lake Compounds, but the thing I found very interesting was that it's Hershey Lake Compounds, and I think I remember doing some research on that Lake Compounds was owned by Hershey for only a couple years, I think around 86 or so. And Lake Compounds is a local amusement park to me. It's in Bristol, Connecticut. So I find it interesting for that fact as well. Alright, now on to the next case. I picked this up at an indoor flea market. I think it was the Collinsville Antique Center, maybe a year or two ago. And it's not particularly old. I think it's maybe from the 80s or 90s. But I just thought it was cool. It's a TAM Airlines. Let's see, what type of jet is this? I'm not sure what this is. 757 maybe? If any airline experts or airplane experts out there, let me know. What model airplane is this? I'm going to say 757 or 767. And we've got more random stuff here. I got a couple packs of Cyndi Lauper cards from the 80s by Topps. A medal from Expo 70, which was in Japan, I think. Some 8mm film. This one is Popeye, Flintstones, and Christmas Stories. These airplanes here are Midge toys, M-I-D-G-E toys. Got these at the Granby Flea Market not too long ago. I thought these were really interesting just because they look like almost experimental planes, early jets. Thought those were really cool. And I think I paid $5 a piece for them, which I thought was a good deal. These are also Tootsie toys, but I think they're newer than the other ones. The other ones were from the early 70s, I think, and these are probably from the early 80s, most likely, possibly late 70s. This one is supposed to be a Honda Civic, and this one is a Chevy Blazer. And I know they're very basic. They're not as detailed as some car models out there, but for whatever reason, I find that even more interesting. And this, I got this from my grandmother as well. I think this is called a sock darner. Something to do with sewing socks, I guess. Really don't know much about it other than it was my grandmother's. Got some more Matchbox and Tootsie toys here. The hovercraft on the top left is a Matchbox. I had one just like that as a kid. That's not the one I had as a kid, but it's exactly like that. So I got that, I think, at Elephant's Trunk. And I think I also had a hovercraft like this as a kid. There's an ambulance. I got that because it reminded me of Ecto-1 from the Ghostbusters. There's more Matchbox toys there. And I got a good deal on all these. I don't pay a lot for these. I think I paid maybe max $2 to $3 a piece on these. And these big ones down here, they look new to me, but they're actually from, I think, the early 70s. These came in that lot of the other king-size Matchboxes I showed you earlier. So I thought that was a very good deal, all those Matchboxes, just for $5 total. And then these are Tootsie toys, of course. You can tell they're Tootsie toys because they're very basic. Usually they don't have a bottom on them. And they're usually just a single color for the most part. Okay, now on to this Barrister's bookcase. This Barrister's bookcase here was actually my grandmother's. I think she got it back in the 80s maybe at an antique store. I don't think she paid much for it. But I inherited this maybe 10, 15 years ago. And I really like Barrister's bookcases for display cases. But the ones I'm finding recently are very expensive. Usually multiple hundreds of dollars, if not over $1,000. So I probably won't be getting many more Barrister's bookcases in the near future. Alright, so now getting on to what's actually inside the case. Most of what I have in here are Franklin Mint Star Trek starships, for the most part. And I got the majority of these when I was a kid, back in the early to mid-90s. I would usually get one for my birthday and one for Christmas. And then later, I did buy a few online on eBay, back in like the early to mid-2000s. And I have an almost complete set. There's a few that are missing, and those, of course, are the very expensive ones that are really hard to find. But first up, we have the Stargazer. That was Captain Picard's first starship. That one is somewhat less easy to find than, say, the Enterprise D. That's probably the most common one, I would say. So you can get the Enterprise D fairly cheap. I would say you could get it for under 50 bucks pretty easily on eBay. This is the Voyager, though, USS Voyager. This one is one of the more expensive ones. I did get a pretty good deal on it, but last time I checked, it could go for a couple $100s or more. And to be honest, I'm really out of date on the pricing for these because I haven't been searching for them on eBay probably since 2015. So again, I could be way off on prices here. This is the Excelsior, one of my favorite ships of all time. This one it's less common than the Enterprise D, but it's not too difficult to find. This is the Enterprise A. This does tend to be one of the more difficult ones to find in my experience, and one of the more expensive ones. Problem I'm having with this one, as you can probably see here, is the nacelles are starting to droop. These are made out of pewter, and the pewter is just too thin for some of these. And what I've had to do is prop them up with a character glass on that side, and then that's some sort of camera stand. But for the longest time, these nacelles were fine. And then I didn't check on this for maybe a couple years, and I came back, and they were drooped down, like way down here. And I was horrified, of course. Luckily, though, pewter is soft enough that you can bend them back if you're very careful. And you can kind of see where they're not totally straight anymore because I bent them back. And now they're starting to droop again. So I don't know if there's any way to fix that. I would imagine you'd have to put some sort of bracing along the supports there. But it's really just, it's too bad because it's a great little model, but it's just not going to stand the test of time, I don't think. And then there's a Ferengi Marauder. That's one of the more common ones as well. I think they were one of the early models that came out. And then below it is a Rockcliffe Ferengi Marauder. That is the type of model I would usually see at like a Hallmark store back in the 80s and 90s. They would always be in that glass case at the front near the dragons and other things like that. They're not terribly valuable, but I really like them just because they're great little scale models. And they bring back a lot of memories for me. So there's the Excelsior Rockcliffe. There's the Voyager Rockcliffe. And that is the Reliant from Star Trek II. And then there's a Coca-Cola van that I got at the Elephant's Trunk, I think a year ago or so. I think this one's really cool because on the top you can see the little Coke bottles inside under the sunroof. Or skylights, whatever you want to call them. So I thought that was really cool. I think I paid $8 for it, maybe. And then this is an Alf pencil case. Got this at the Brody Park Flea Market. I think I paid $2 for it. That's probably about what it's worth, but I'm glad to have it. Okay, so back to the Franklin Mint Star Trek starships. This is the original Enterprise, 1701. It's one of the more common ones. It was early on, so made in higher numbers, I think. It's also got slightly droopy nacelles. I've seen them online where some people have extremely droopy nacelles where they're all the way down here. Luckily, these ones are holding up pretty well so far, knock on wood. Next to it is the shuttlecraft Galileo. Nothing to worry about here as far as drooping, because this thing is like a solid brick of pewter. It's really heavy duty, so nothing's going to happen with that. Here's a Klingon battle cruiser, and amazingly, this one's not drooping. If any of them would droop, I would think this one would, because it's so thin. But fingers crossed, it's doing okay for now. This one's a Romulan bird of prey from the original series, and normally you're probably saying, oh, it should be a Klingon bird of prey, but for whatever reason, in the original series, these were called Romulan birds of prey, and then later they had a Klingon bird of prey, which is a totally different ship, which we'll see in a second. This is Deep Space Nine, one of my favorites. This one is very delicate, though. It's got little pieces there, little gold pieces that are very susceptible to just getting knocked off. This little plate here is actually uranium glass, and if anybody doubts it, here it is under a UV light. I don't know how well that shows up on camera, but that's uranium glass. And you see this ashtray next to it does not light up under the UV. This is a Holiday Inn ashtray that I got at Brimfield not too long ago. Here's another old Matchbox. Pretty sure it's Matchbox. I don't see the Matchbox name on it. But this also, I think, is from the 60s or 70s. These two cars here, I need some help figuring out what these are. So they're basically identical. They look, so they're solid glass, and they look like Mercedes from the 80s. Like, it doesn't have the Mercedes logo on it, but it's very clearly based on a Mercedes. And I don't know where these are from, you know, where you would have bought them, who made them, I don't know. And originally when I got these, I thought they were different, but now that I'm looking at them, they're identical, except this one, which is actually much heavier than this one, has this frosted glass on the bottom, which is nice because it enables you to see the interior much better. So that's another question I would have, is why did they make two different versions like this? Is this a knockoff or just a cheaper version? I don't know. Alright, so back to the Franklin Mint starships. This is a Romulan warbird from the Next Generation, and then there's a Rockcliffe version of it. And then here's the Klingon bird of prey, which is what I think of when I hear bird of prey, not that Romulan one I showed earlier. That's pretty cool. And then this is the last Star Trek Franklin Mint ship I have. This is the Borg. I don't want to say, it's not the Borg cube. This is the Borg ship that I think Hugh got. When I remember Hugh the Borg got free from the collective, and he and a bunch of his buddies somehow scrapped together a bunch of other ships and put this thing together. And I think this only showed up in maybe 1 or 2 episodes max. So I think it's kind of odd that they chose this Borg ship rather than the traditional cube or even the sphere. Very strange. And that one I don't see a ton of listings on eBay, but they are out there. Another thing I've been collecting since I was a kid is rocks, minerals, and fossils. So here we've got a crystal of some sort. I hate to say it, I don't know what type of mineral this is. I probably used to know, but I don't anymore. I got this back in the 80s at a rock shop, I think in Maine. And it used to be a lot pointier. Over the years, the points on the crystal have been knocked off, chipped off. And I really wish when I was a kid I had put that in some sort of display case, like little acrylic case of some sort, where it would have been protected. This is petrified wood, which I'm fascinated by because this is a tree from millions of years ago, and now it's solid rock, so I think that's really cool. Now this, I think, might be fake, or at least partially fake. I got this at a rock show about 10 years ago, and it's got shark teeth in it, which I think the shark teeth are real. But this here was sold as like a fossilized conglomerate or something like that. I don't remember the exact scientific term. But since then, I've looked these up, and it appears that some dealers will actually make these. So they'll take the actual shark teeth, and then they'll make this sand type thing. I don't know what you'd even call it. It's like a piece of sand concrete, and they'd put them in there. Some people have allegedly taken these, put them in a bathtub, and everything dissolves except for the shark teeth. So again, I think the shark teeth are real, but I don't know if this actual piece as a whole is something that was actually found like this in nature. This is also petrified wood, and what I thought was fascinating about this is it looks like the wood you would put in your fireplace today, but this is solid rock. Crazy. This, I think I got this at Epcot at the Mexican Pavilion way back in the 80s. It says made in Mexico. Just made out of chalk. But as a kid, I thought it was cool. Never got rid of it. This is a fossilized shell of some sort, and it's got concretions on it. And then this is a bear claw clam that I got back in Key West sometime in the 80s when we went there with my parents. It's not fossilized, it's just a bear claw clam, which is neat because it's so big. Here's my button collection. I just started collecting buttons and pins like this probably within the last year. Yeah, pretty sure it was about a year ago I started collecting these. And as you can see, my display case is already filling up. The display case I actually got at Goodwill a few years ago for $12, so that was a really good deal. Cases like that seem to sell for about $50, $60 or so on Amazon. So I was glad to get that, but it looks like I'll be needing a second one pretty soon. And as I've mentioned in some of my videos, I like to collect amusement parks, retail things, so like Sears, Kmart, things like that, as well as other pop culture type stuff. So we got Canobie Lake Park. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Is it Canobie? Canobie? I think Canobie. I'm probably wrong. Tell me I'm wrong in the comments. And there's Tandy Computers 10th anniversary celebration tab, which for some reason I'm fascinated by tab. This one's pretty cool. This is from NASA. It says NASA Pratt Race for Space Symposium 1978. And I guess looks like the name on that is Ian Pace. So apparently this was Ian Pace's pin from that symposium. There's Wendy's, Pepsi. This is probably the oldest pin I have. It's Snow White Jingle Club member. And I think that's from the 50s. Mellow Yellow. Bunch of Disney pins. And here's some Star Wars pins. We got Darth Vader Lives, C-3PO. And you'll see that Vader is spelled wrong. V-A-D-A-R. It's supposed to be V-A-D-E-R. And that's allegedly an error. I don't know if it's an error or if that was just issued by, you know, a company that didn't have the actual license for Star Wars and that was a way to get around it. I'm not sure. Got Polar Caves. It's a radio station. There's Six Flags Great Adventure. 1982 World's Fair in Knoxville, Tennessee. New England Aquarium. Ames, I really like that one. I'd love to find some Bradleys and Caldor pins. There's Shaw's Supermarket. The Big E. Not sure what year that's from. But I'm thinking it's older because it says Mass, M-A-S-S, and normally the abbreviation would be M-A. So this might be older, possibly from the 60s, but I'm just guessing. Newtone, Zenith, That's the Antique Machinery Association in Kent, Connecticut. I did a video there. One of my lowest viewed videos of all time, believe it or not. I don't think it's broken 1,000 views at this point. These are Sonic the Hedgehog pins that I think were made by fans. I got these at Fandom Flea in Hartford last year. And then these pins are from Mays Antique Market. Mays, as you might know, is one of the fields at the Brimfield Flea Market. And apparently they do these every year, which I never knew of until very recently when I went to their show, and they had a whole bucket or whole basket full of these, which I picked up. This is the Battle Action marble game from Wolverine. Thought this was kind of neat. I have it stuck on the wall with those command strips because it currently doesn't really work. The mechanism here gets bound up and you can't use it, but I don't know, it looks good on display, I think. These orange ceramic plates and bowls and cups are Fiestaware, and as you may know, the orange ones, if they're old enough, are radioactive. And I've said it before in a few videos where I find that fascinating. I know some people have left comments saying, I don't understand why you find it fascinating, and, you know, isn't that dangerous? Like I said, I think in one of my videos recently, I can't really explain to you why I find it fascinating, I just do. And as far as it being dangerous, it's not dangerous to have it in your house, or to collect it, or touch it, really. I wouldn't put it under your pillowcase and sleep with it, but other than that, it's fairly safe. I wouldn't eat off it either, because if any of the paint chips off and you swallow it, that could be a problem. But I'll show you how radioactive it is. So, normal background radiation is apparently around like 30 counts per minute. And then it's considered high if it's over 100 counts per minute. And so this is, let's see how high we can get it. So it's going above 3,000 in some spots. And depending on how you hold it, it can go over 3,000. So yes, definitely radioactive, but it doesn't go out very far, the radiation. So let's see how far out it goes. Yeah, so even by here, it's picking it up a little bit, but not a lot. So essentially, once you're out by about 3 feet from it, you're not going to really be getting any radiation for the most part. Now, something interesting that I found recently is that not all orange or red Fiestaware like this is radioactive. So if you're interested in buying this type of stuff, I would highly recommend getting a Geiger counter, like the one I have here. They sell for about $100 on Amazon. And the reason is because if you want to use it, like actually eat off it, you want to make sure that the ones you're getting are not radioactive. And of course, if you're looking for radioactive ones, you want to make sure they are radioactive. So these, again, are radioactive. Now this one here looks identical, really, color-wise. The color might be slightly different. Let me get some more light in here. I think the one on the left might be slightly lighter in color, very slightly, and I would only be able to tell the difference if it was right next to one of these. But this one is newer, and this is not radioactive at all. And the only reason it's clicking now is because it's near this. But this one is essentially not radioactive. But it looks almost identical. And speaking of uranium, this is uranium glass, or Vaseline glass. And it's also radioactive, but not nearly as radioactive as Fiestaware. And the fun thing about it, or the most fun, is that it glows under UV light. So, again, I'm not sure how this is going to look on the camera, but you can probably see it's glowing green, some more than others. So this one's really glowing. Looks like it's almost looking blue on the camera, but it's a bright green in real life. And they all glow to some extent, some more than others. And they are also radioactive. And I think somebody left a comment in one of my videos stating that they are not radioactive, but that is incorrect. There are some, which I saw at Brimfield recently, that looked like this, but they weren't showing as radioactive. But I know mine are, so let's see how radioactive. So this one here is giving off some radiation, more than normal. I know in the past I got this one to go up to like 200 counts per minute. Right now it's not getting above 70. Oh, it's going up. Might take a while. So it beeps when it goes over 100 because that's high. So as you can see, they are radioactive, but not nearly as radioactive as the Fiestaware, which was getting up over 3,000 counts per minute. This is a de Havilland Vampire. It's an early jet aircraft made in the UK. It came out in the mid-40s, like between 43 and 46, I think, per Wikipedia. And it was a very early experimental jet. I thought it was really cool. I found it at an indoor flea market maybe a couple years ago. It was, I think, $35 maybe, which I thought was a pretty good deal because it's pretty big, as you can see. And the detail is not bad either. Here's some more 8mm films. We got Son of Frankenstein, The Mummy's Tomb, Woody Woodpecker. And that calculator there is the Little Professor calculator, which I got at Brimfield just a few months ago, I think. Or maybe it was back in, no, July, so last month. Some old transistor radios. This is a Polaroid SX70 camera, which was actually my dad's. He got it new back in the 70s, and I inherited it. I do have the carrying case as well, but it's lost in storage somewhere. I do have it, I just don't know exactly where. This is an early Sony Discman. This was mine when I was a kid. I got this, I think, in the late 80s. It's not the original Discman, but it's one of the early ones. And then this is just a Pentium 2 processor, a computer CPU, which I have always thought was fascinating just because of the way it looks. There's really not many other CPUs out there that look like that. And I have a whole ton of them. I have a whole box full of Pentium 2 CPUs in my closet, so I figured I'd put one on display. This is a Betamax videotape. This is the Karate Kid Part 2. And as most of you might know, Betamax was an early competitor to VHS. Back in mostly the 70s up until I think the mid-80s. VHS, of course, won, which makes Betamax tapes fairly uncommon. I don't see them almost ever. I've seen them only from actually one vendor at the Elephant's Trunk. Don't think they're particularly valuable, but I just find them fascinating because they're so uncommon. And I've really only seen, I think, maybe one or two Betamax players for sale at a flea market. And from what I understand, a lot of the Betamax players that are for sale are not in working order. And I don't know who would be able to fix them at this point. This is the other Betamax tape I have. It's First Blood, which, as some people also know it, Rambo First Blood. Moving on to my telephone collection. It's not a huge collection, but it's growing, and I am running out of space for it. Mostly what I collect are Western Electric Model 500 telephones, which are these ones here. And these were probably the most common type of telephone you would see back in the 60s, 70s, 80s. This one here is yellow. This one is very much like the one I had as a kid. It's not the exact one, but it's, you know, the same color. This one is red. Red ones and orange ones, and also like baby blue ones tend to go for a lot of money. I usually see the red ones for sale for, you know, between $50 and $100. This one I got really lucky on and only paid $8 for it. So I was really glad to have that. I'd love to have an orange one too, but those ones I don't see too often. I did see a baby blue one recently at Brimfield, and it was, I think it might have been over $100. It was just too expensive. And this is a Stromberg Carlson, which looks a lot like the Western Electric 500, except the corners are squared off like this. And I don't know if this was common in the United States or if this was from overseas, because the manufacturer's name to me sounds like something you would see in Europe, but I could be wrong there. This one here is by a company called PTT, and the thing I found most fascinating about this is on the back here, it's got this second earpiece. So apparently you would be talking and listening on this earpiece, you know, the handset, like normal, and then a third or a second person could pick up the line and listen in. I'm not really sure what the use case would be for that, though. It's also got this button here, which I don't know what that does. So if anybody has more information on this phone, why does it have this here? What would you use this for? And what does this do? And also, because it does have a number on it, I'm guessing this was used in some sort of business or company, like a professional use case rather than somebody's home phone. Here's some more Western Electric 500s. And you can tell the age of the Western Electric 500 pretty easily. So our first thing to look at to see how old it is look at the handset. If it's integrated like this, where basically you cannot detach it, it's not modular, these are older. The newer ones are like this, where they have this little thing here, you can just easily you could detach that and put in a new cord. But let's see, on the bottom sometimes they also have a date code. Alright, so I think, see that there, I think this is from 1961. Looks like February 61. And then let's see how old this one is. Okay, down here, I don't know if you can see that. It looks like it says 1979. So still old, but not as old. This one, I am honestly not sure the make and model of this, because it doesn't have a name anywhere on it. And there's nothing on the back either that would indicate who made it. But I thought this was interesting because of its form factor. Basically, it would sit up like this, and the receiver would go across the, or the handset would rest across the top, which is different than all the others. Now, something that's interesting, on the back of this one, it has what appears to be a repair tag. And it looks like on the bottom it's saying somebody's initial 10/13/1995. So apparently somebody was using this up until about 1995, which I find surprising, because you wouldn't generally be using one like this actively by 1995. If I were to guess, I would say this is from like the 50s or 60s. Maybe older, hard to say. But if anybody knows, let me know in the comments. And then down here I've got a Bugs Bunny camera from 1976. I think I got this at the Woodbury Flea Market. Don't know if it works, to be honest with you. But I thought it was kind of neat. This is a linesman telephone, which I believe would have been used by somebody at the phone company when they go up on the line. They would plug this in directly to the pole or to the lines, and they could use it to call out. I have seen ones with an actual rotary dial on them, and I would like to get one of those as well. And here's another unusual rotary phone I found at Brimfield not too long ago. I forget the actual make and model of this one, but I believe it turned out to be from Germany, I think. So it is a foreign phone, but I just thought the design was really fascinating. All right, now onto this cabinet. This display cabinet, or a curio cabinet, whatever you want to call it, I got this from my mom about a year ago or so. She used to have it at her house, but since she's moved, I got it. And I'm very glad to have it. It's, I would guess, at least 100 years old, if not from the 1890s. I really have no idea, but that would be my guess. So on top of the cabinet, I have some of my bottle collection. And I do apologize for the glare, but there's not much I can do about that. I just started bottle collecting fairly recently. And this one I have a bunch of Coke bottles. Got a Diet Pepsi, Diet Coke, regular Coke, a Coke bottle from the 1980 Olympics. Got two of them actually. They had different characters on the back. Got a Canada Dry bottle. I forgot to take the price tag off it apparently. And that one is a Royal Crown Cola, or RC Cola bottle. And I can't take these out right now, but got a Hires root beer hiding back there. A different Diet Coke, different Diet Pepsi bottle. And then in the back, we got a 7-Up, Canada Dry, and it's kind of hard to see. It's a Coca-Cola bottle from UConn, 1999, the University of Connecticut, when they won the NCAA tournament. All right, now let's take a look inside the case. Let's get it opened up here. It's got this nice little key here. Very fancy. All right, so I got a lot of stuff in here. I'm not going to go over everything because it would take forever. But in the back, hopefully I can get this back here. This is the original Hallmark Star Trek ornament from, I think, 91. It's the Enterprise, of course. And I'd been looking for that forever. When I was a kid, I got the second one, which was the shuttlecraft Galileo. And I never got the original until just, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago. Kind of losing track of time here, but I think it was roughly 5 years ago that I finally found this. And they have a lot of those on eBay, but a lot of them either have the price tag cut out, or they've got other holes in them, or they're all scratched up. And that one is nearly perfect, so I was really happy to get that. And I got it for a good price. It was under 100. I forget what I paid, but it might have been like 60, 70. This is a Star Trek phaser prop from the 2009 J.J. Abrams Star Trek, and I think it came with a, it was like a Blu-ray release. I think that was a special edition it came with, and that was like one of the best pack-ins with a special edition Blu-ray I've ever seen. It's very realistic, very heavy duty. It's really nice. And then this right here, this is the Enterprise. This is a Franklin Mint model, not pewter. This one came out in around 91, I think. And I love this one. This is one of my favorites. It's solid metal. Well, not solid metal, but it's metal. Painted, of course. And the trick to getting one of these is finding one in good condition, because the first time I bought one of these off eBay, it came with this little, the sensor dish here, or the deflector, got broken off. It had scratches all over it. And I think the tag, or the nameplate on the front had fallen off. And also there's a hang tag on the back. The hang tag was missing from the first one. I still have the first one. It's in the back bedroom, or the nerd cave as I call it. But this one is in pretty much mint condition. I've got the box too. Then this is a Franklin Mint pewter. This is a AT-AT from Star Wars. Also one of my favorites. Just kind of sits on the stand here. And this Enterprise here was also a pack-in with a Blu-ray. I don't know if it was the 2009 movie or the follow-up, Star Trek Into Darkness, I think. I think that's what it was called. It's from one or the other. And it's really high quality. It's pewter, I think. It's it's very similar in quality to the Franklin Mint ones, except it's a little bit smaller and not as detailed, but really nice piece, I think. That one back there, I think that was also, yeah, I think that was a pack-in from the Blu-ray for the Star Trek Beyond movie. That's the USS Franklin. That was the old starship that they found in the movie. That one, though, is all plastic. It's not metal like the others, but it's still nice. And then this is a fossilized seashell with, I think this is, I could be wrong, I think it's calcite inside it. This is one of those things where I used to know what this was like 10, 15 years ago, but now I can't remember. But I think that's calcite. And I've got a couple of those. I really like that. This is, of course, the puzzle box from Hellraiser, the Lament configuration. It's a, it's a cheapo thing from China. Not worth much, like 10, 20 bucks max. But I think it's kind of cool. This is pretty new. I actually just bought this recently at the New England Air Museum gift shop. It's an SR-71 Blackbird. They have a lot of airplane models there, not surprisingly. Airplane toys as well. So I just love the SR-71, so I decided to pick it up. But this is pretty much brand new. Alright, now, second shelf. This is the Enterprise D. This is also a Franklin Mint one. It's a lot like the Enterprise, the original Enterprise up above. It's actually from the same set, so it's, or same series. Very high quality, very nice, very hard to find in the box and in perfect condition. And this one is pretty much in perfect or mint condition. Love it. And then this is a Franklin Mint pewter starship or spaceship. This is the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars. Also one of my favorites. Very high quality. And then these toys are new. These are from the last year or two. From the Star Wars Micro Galaxy collection, I think they call it. Something like that. This is the Lambda class shuttle from Return of the Jedi. And that's Boba Fett's ship in the back, which I can't say the name of because I could get demonetized by YouTube. But I think they actually renamed his ship. So his ship has a politically incorrect name. I think they rebranded it the Fire Spray or something like that. But it'll always be the original name to me. Got this recently, I think at Brimfield. It's a candy dish, I guess, is what you'd call it, for the Terminal Tower Building, Cleveland, Ohio. It's pretty cool. Not sure if that still exists. I think it might. If it does, I would love to see it someday. But it may not exist. Let me know in the comments if it exists. And then this is the this is Kit from Knight Rider. This is a Playmobil toy, and I had never knew anything about Playmobil until maybe a year or two ago. And I figured, I'd try them out. But I have to say, I don't think I like them. And the reason is they come with stickers or decals, and you have to apply them yourself. And I don't know about you, but I'm really bad with applying decals or stickers. I tried as hard as I could to line up the stickers, and they just didn't line up properly. So let me see if I can see it from the side here. Yeah, so here it is on the side. That reflector is a sticker. That came out okay. And I think, yeah, there's more stickers on the back for the taillights, which I think I did okay, but they don't look great. So I just wish it would come with all the stickers attached. Alright, down to the third shelf. This right here is the USS Enterprise again from Star Trek. This one, though, is from Playmates. It's plastic. This is the reissue. So originally they made this back in like 91, 92, something like that. And I have the original in the original box in my storage unit somewhere. But they re-released them last year. They're almost identical to the originals, except they have some additional noises. So I think that's kind of cool. And being that it's new, I didn't really have a problem taking it out of the box. I'm one of those collectors or those people that when I get something to collect and it comes in a box, I feel really bad taking it out of the box, because I grew up in the time where it was like, you know, if you take it out of the box, it is immediately worth half of what it was in the box. But at this point, I'm like, you know what, I want to enjoy it. I want to look at it rather than just looking at the box in a storage unit. So I bought the reissue, took it out of the box. I, of course, saved the box and have it all nicely preserved in my storage unit. But I get this to look at every day. And I really like it. It is, of course, a toy, so it's not as detailed as the Franklin Mint one up above, but it's pretty nice, I think. And then these cars are new as well. These are from Jada Toys, or Jada, J-A-D-A. And they're really high quality. They cost about $20 to $30 on Amazon. This one is Kit from Knight Rider, and when you open the door, his little sensor goes off. That, I think, is really cool. And I'll have to remember to take the batteries out of these things, because I really would hate the batteries to corrode and then explode, which they will eventually. So I'll just have to remember to do that at some point. And then we've got Ecto-1 from Ghostbusters, of course. And behind him is the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. That's actually a Playmobil toy. And that I was fine with. That, it didn't require any assembly. He just came in the box like that. So I was really happy with that. He's a little bit small. He's not really to scale with the Ecto-1, but it still works. And then on the left here, I have the DeLorean time machines from Back to the Future. Got one from each movie. So on the front, we've got Back to the Future 3 with the big 1950s tires. In the back right is the one from Back to the Future 2, when it got the Mr. Fusion and the flying capability, or the flying add-on. And then the back left is the one from the original movie. And the great thing about these toys are that they all light up, which I think looks pretty cool. Okay, so now the second to last shelf. This is another one of those Playmates reissues from just in the last year or two. This is the Enterprise D, of course. And I also have the original from the early 90s in my storage unit in the original box. But as this is a reissue, again, I had no problem taking it out. And then here, this is Carr, K-A-R-R. This is the Evil Kit from Knight Rider. And he looks pretty much the same, except it's black on the top, and then he's got silver or gray paint on the bottom. And his sensor goes off too when you open the door, but his sensor is yellow instead of red. So I think that's really cool. I love it. Good times. And then I've got a Scooby-Doo Mystery Machine here with Scooby-Doo and Shaggy. And then on the side, this is a Buick Regal. It's actually a Fast and the Furious model, but I didn't buy it because of Fast and Furious. I bought it because I had an 86 Buick Regal back in the 90s, actually. It's the car I took to college. So just because it was a Buick Regal, I got it. I've actually never seen a Fast and Furious movie, so I didn't care about that part of it. This is a wooden tank that I got at the Big E. You can find these online. They usually go for about $80 to $100. And like I said, they're made of wood. I'm not sure what wood it is, but it's really lightweight. And I think they're made in Vietnam, pretty sure. So this is an M1A1 Abrams. And yeah, I really like it. It's not perfect. It does have some imperfections on it, but it's pretty nice looking, I think. It's got a really high gloss finish on it. Alright, now the final shelf. These are mostly my Boston Terrier statues or figures that I've collected. And, well, before I get to those, this is the big boy here. He's life-size. I would guess, and I've tried to research this, but I can't really get a definitive date. I've read that he's either from anywhere from the 1930s up until the 1960s. I would think 30s or 40s is probably most likely. He's made of chalk, as far as I can tell. He's pretty heavy. He's painted, of course. And he's got this, he came with this collar, which is a very old collar. So the model itself has a collar, but this is a real collar that came with it. And, you know, I don't believe in ghosts or anything like that, but when I saw that, I thought, I wonder if that was somebody's pet's actual collar. And I wonder if that pet was a Boston Terrier. So I don't know. It just, I don't want to take it off out of respect for whoever's collar that might have been at some point. I know it's silly. Again, I don't believe in ghosts really, but I don't know. There's something about it. I don't want to touch it, or I don't want to remove it. But I thought he was really cool. I saw him at Brimfield maybe 3-4 years ago. It is in one of my videos, but it's one of my really early Brimfield videos where I don't do any talking. And I think I paid maybe $160, which might be the most I've ever paid for any one item at any flea market. But I've never seen one like him before, and he's pretty much the king of Boston Terrier statues. And if my real Boston Terrier would come over here and cooperate and sit next to him, that would be nice for a comparison, but she doesn't want to cooperate right now. Okay, so I got her over here. So on the left, obviously, this is the real Boston Terrier. This is the statue, and they're pretty much the same size. The statue might be slightly bigger. I remember when I first got the statue, she was just staring at him like, what the heck is this? She wasn't quite sure if he was real or not. So these are my other Boston Terrier statues, minus this Captain America figure here. So let me take him out actually. So I've got quite a few. This one I actually just got recently for my birthday from my mom. This one I got at Woodbury. This one is not actually a Boston Terrier as far as I can tell, but he is a similar type dog. Hard to say exactly what he is. But there's a Boston Terrier planter, I think. And then just a bunch of random statues and figures. Some of them are old, some are not. Like this one is new. This one is old. Not sure how old. This one actually used to be my grandmother's. Even though it's brown, it does look like a Boston Terrier. So I'm going to say it's a Boston Terrier. And the one in the back there, that guy, also looks old to me. The rest are fairly new. This black one here I got at Stormville last year. It's just concrete painted black, so it's really low quality, but it was pretty big and the price wasn't too bad. Now in the back there, that Boston Terrier with the red collar, that's one of those that you see at pretty much every flea market, especially Brimfield. I think the last Brimfield show I went to, I saw at least 3 or 4 of them, if not more. So, as I've said in my videos, I'm very suspicious that most of them, a very high percentage, are reproductions and not originals. I don't know that for a fact, but whenever I see that many of a single item, especially one that's purported to be an antique, I kind of think it's probably a reproduction. But I still like it. And there's a Boston Terrier doorstop here. And this one's kind of weird looking, but he is a Boston Terrier. And this mug here, I got at the Raynham flea market. I think it was Raynham. If it wasn't Raynham, I'll put a note in the video. I think it was Raynham. This was a vendor who gave it to me for free because she knew I had a Boston Terrier. So I thank her for that. Even though I don't remember her name, but thank you very much for this mug. Okay, and then I got this fire extinguisher at the Marrier's flea market last year. This one, again, I'm not really sure how old it is. It's probably at the latest from the 60s and at the oldest maybe from the 20s. I'm really not sure. It says soda acid fire extinguisher. And it's in pretty good condition, except it's got some corrosion here, which I know will buff out, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet. And I think I paid $50 for it, so it wasn't a bad price. Of course, since then I've seen nicer ones for about the same price. This airplane will be coming up in a future video, and I'm not sure how old it is. I don't think it's too new, but I also don't think it's too old. I guess it's chrome plated? I really am not sure. But it does seem to be solid metal. Looks like there used to be a tag on the base, but that fell off. And I think it probably could be buffed. It's not in horrible condition, but it is kind of dull. So if anybody knows, would it be safe for me to buff this with some sort of chrome polish or other metal polish of some sort? I would guess so, but I just don't want to destroy it. Alright, and I almost forgot, I do have a couple lightsabers. These are prop replicas. This one is, if you know Star Wars, this is Luke Skywalker's Return of the Jedi lightsaber. And it's okay. It's not super accurate, but it's pretty close. It's got a NeoPixel blade. Some of these have an RGB blade where basically it's an RGB light at the base here, and it just lights up this tube. Those are the cheap ones. This one has, like I said, it's a NeoPixel, so basically the whole lightsaber has pixels down the length of it, which makes it look much more realistic. And the sound on this one isn't great. It's kind of quiet, and there's not much bass, like the next one I'll show you, but this is what it looks like turned on. And it can change colors. Now this can light up many different colors, and it's got different sounds, but this is the Luke Skywalker sound, or at least as close as you can get. So it's the green blade. And if you can hear that. So I thought that was kind of neat. And now this is the good one. This is the most expensive one. It's probably one of the most expensive lightsabers you can buy. I'm not going to say how much I paid, but it's quite a bit. And this is a prop replica of Darth Vader's lightsaber from Empire Strikes Back. And it's supposedly extremely accurate, because if you're not aware, when they made the movies, they made these lightsabers out of Graflex flash tubes. I'll show a picture of one in a second here. But basically this would have been like a flash that would have gone on top of an old-fashioned camera. And so this one still says micro flash on it, which is what they actually said in the movie, if you got close enough. I don't know if you can actually see these in the movie, but the actual prop has that on there. So it's extremely accurate. And this one sounds a lot better too. It's much deeper. And it has sounds like you're being fired on. Alright, so now the final case. And actually before we get to that, on top here is the print or painting I have of the USS Arizona, which is pretty nice. This one is 328 out of 1,500 produced. No idea if it's worth anything. Probably not, but I like it. Then I got this fairly recently at the Elephant's Trunk. It's obviously a reproduction. This is not an actual Tyrannosaurus skull, but it's a pretty good reproduction of a small one, I guess a baby one. And it was only $10, so I figured I had to get that. And then this shark I got at the Mansfield Drive-In Flea Market, I think earlier this spring. And like I said in the video, I like it because he looks a lot like Jaws. He's got that kind of bluish color, and he's so big. I would say he's, I don't know, 16 inches maybe? Give or take. So probably the largest toy shark I've ever seen in person. On the top row we got the Seven Dwarves. I'm not sure how old all of these are. The Seven Dwarves ones I think might be from the 90s, but that's just a guess. And that blueberry one there, that blue one there, I think she's from Strawberry Shortcake. And then there's a Cabbage Patch Kid to the right of her, to her left. Then a bunch of Smurf toys from the early 80s, I think. Pretty sure. There's Smee from Peter Pan. Then these Star Wars ones here, I've had these since the 90s. I bought these new. I think I got them at Spencer Gifts. Pretty sure. Or maybe Suncoast, one or the other. Then these are the California Raisins from the 80s. I've got 4 of them, as you can see. And when I had these, I was like, oh, I must have an almost complete set. And then I looked online, and apparently they made dozens of these. Some guy was selling a lot of something like 36 of them, and they were all different. So my hopes of getting a complete set of these have quickly gone out the window, because I really don't want to buy just a lot of 36. I'd like to find them individually, and I'm probably not going to. I'll find more, but I doubt I'm going to find all 36, or however many there were. And then these are 2 Donald Duck statues. Got these both at the Elephant's Trunk, I think at the same show. Sorry about that glare again. See if I can move that. There we go. I think these are both either from the 60s and or 70s. Not sure exactly, but they're both made in Japan. And like I said, I do collect rocks and minerals. Not as much as I used to, but I still have a few here. Here's 2 more of those fossilized clamshells, I guess they are, with, again, I think it's calcium, or no, calcite. I think it's calcite in them. I was going to say calcium carbonate, but I don't think that's correct. That's some pink quartz. Not sure what that is on the right, to be honest with you. There's more quartz, some amethyst, another big amethyst there, some various geodes. Don't really know what they are, scientifically speaking. There's a trilobite fossil, which I've had since the 80s, I think. Another geode. And then this is a, get that glare out, this is a big trilobite I got at the Woodbury Flea Market earlier this year. I'm pretty sure it's real. It looks real to me, but I'm always worried with fossils like this that they could be fake, because there are a lot of fakes out there. But to me, that looks real. But if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. And then in the back, you might be able to see there's a fossilized clamshell back there. And now we're going to go in the final display case. This is actually a bookcase that I bought at Caldor back in the early 90s, I think. This is one of those that you assemble yourself. So it's not the best quality, but for the type of bookshelf that you assemble yourself and that you buy at Caldor, it's not the worst quality either. I am thinking of replacing it with more of those glass cabinets that I have my character glasses in. But I don't think I would get rid of this. I would just put it somewhere else, because I do think it's pretty nice. But obviously you can't see as much of the items as you can in the glass cases, because you got these big thick frames here, and of course on the sides you can't see anything. But let's open it up. Alright, so again, I'm not going to go through everything here because there's quite a bit, and it's all very random. This is a record from the 1964 World's Fair, The Triumph of Man, and this was sponsored by the Travelers Insurance Company, and this was their pavilion. So I thought that was pretty cool. I got that pretty cheap. I forget what I paid, but it wasn't a lot. It'll be in an upcoming episode of the Stormville Flea Market. And then below it, I've got a bunch of these cereal bowls. We got King Kong. And yeah, let me just take them out here. Some random crappy handheld game system. And another not so great handheld game system, a BitBoy. Do not recommend it. It works okay, but the screen is way too small. Alright, so we got, here are the cereal bowls. This is Empire Strikes Back. So from approximately 1980. Got another Empire Strikes Back. This one is actually, oh, it's the same as that one. I didn't know I had duplicates. Yeah, so these two are the same. And then this one is the original Star Wars. And this is the Amazing Spider-Man from 1977, based on the copyright. And then King Kong. This is from the movie King Kong, which came out in what, 76. And those, I think I paid $5 a piece, so I paid $30 for the whole stack. No, there's 5 of them. So maybe I paid $6 each? 5 or 6 each, which isn't bad. I've seen them for sale at other flea markets, though, where they're trying to charge $30 a piece. Whether they're worth that or not, I don't know, but I wouldn't pay that much. This is a Darth Vader mug, which I think I got fairly recently. So this is not, well, it's from 97, so it's still really not that old. That's a trophy my dad won back in the 50s, I think. And as far as I know, it's actual sterling silver. Or it's silver. I don't know if it's sterling, but it's real silver. It just needs to be polished. Then this is a GE radio from, I think, the 60s. This is new. This is a Slimer toy that just came out either last year or this year. But I thought he was pretty cool. And of course, he was on sale at Walmart. Usually when I buy toys that are like modern toys, they're usually on sale. So I think I got him for maybe $5. And I took the batteries out, but when you press him down like this, he makes his weird noises and stuff. Here's Poppin' Fresh, the Pillsbury Doughboy. I think he's from the 70s, pretty sure. Here's the Big Boy. And I think he's from the 60s or 70s, but I do not know. There's the game Merlin in the original box, so it's completely mint. Not going to open the box, but trust me, it's in there. This is Superman Bubble Bath that I got fairly recently at a flea market. It's still got the actual bubble bath soap in it, which I could probably use. I don't really know how bad it goes. It's soap, so I don't know if it really spoils or not. It doesn't smell bad. And this is, I think, from 1978. It says copyright, and this is an Avon product. So, Avon bubble soap. This is the original box. He's got a cape as well, but the cape is sealed in a plastic container. I didn't want to take the cape out, and it's kind of a cheapo cape. It's made of plastic, so I was thinking I might just get a little tiny piece of red cloth and make my own cape for him. And I got a really good deal on him from the guy I bought him from, so I do thank him for that. Here's another Darth Vader mug. This one I think I got a while back. Yeah, not seeing a date on it. I think I got this in the 90s. Possibly from my mom for Christmas, maybe. But it's hard to say. I got some Mickey Mouse straws back there, some Donald Duck straws on the left. There's a stereoscope. This is a sewing kit from A&P supermarkets, which I thought was really unusual. I think I only paid $1 for this. But yeah, it's a whole sewing kit from A&P. And can you imagine nowadays Stop and Shop or Big Y or Shaw's or one of the other big supermarkets giving out a sewing kit? It just wouldn't make sense, at least not to me. This is it's not a postcard, it's a print made by somebody in Salem, Mass. When I went to Salem and did that, remember that video on the Witch City Mall with the amazing bathrooms? I got this, paid $10 for it. This is the Witch House, and it says Ghost Wolf Handmade. So I guess Ghost Wolf is either the name of the vendor or the artist, not sure. But I thought it was kind of cool. And this radio here, this is a Fada, F-A-D-A. I think it's from the 40s. And this was my grandfather's. I remember him playing this me and my brother used to always go over to my grandmother's house on the weekends to sleep over. And my grandfather had a bedroom in the back, like all the way at the back. And he would listen to the ball game before going to bed. And I just remember hearing him listening to the ball game on this for years and years. It does still work, but it'll give you a shock if you touch it. So it needs to be rewired. So yeah, it's kind of scary to use, actually. Wouldn't recommend it, but I like it, you know, because on one hand it's an antique radio or a vintage radio, whatever you want to call it. But especially because it was my grandfather's. Okay, next shelf. This is a Barnum & Bailey's cookie jar from 1972. And my mom and dad actually got this as a wedding gift, believe it or not. Seems like a odd wedding gift, but I'm glad they got it because now I have it. And it's in pretty much mint condition. Not sure what it goes for. I think I've seen it sell, though, for a couple $100 at least. So it is worth something. Here's a few of my Polaroid instant cameras. Nothing too special here. This one I like. It's a Q-Light, one-step Polaroid land camera. I like it because of the stripe. You know, it's got the Polaroid stripe on it. And then this flash attachment on the top, which I don't see too often. And I guess that's called a Q-Light. I think that's pretty cool. This is a very basic one, but I had one like this when I was a kid back in the 80s, a Polaroid one-step flash. It's very bare bones. It's nothing special, but again, I had one like it when I was a kid, so I decided to pick it up. This is a Polaroid one-step close-up. And I guess you can use it to take macro photographs, so really close-up photos. This one is a Polaroid Amigo 620. And this also seems to have that macro function. And the thing I found most interesting about this one is the color, beige. Because, you know, I would say 90% of the Polaroid instant cameras you see are black or gray like these two. And very rarely do you see one that color. Except for here. This is Polaroid The Button. I actually got this at the, oh, what was it? The one in Vermont, the flea market I just went to. I'm drawing a blank on the name of it. I'm so sorry. Is it Wilmington? Maybe Wilmington, I think. And it's also gray. So these are the only two gray Polaroid instant cameras that I've ever seen. So of course I had to pick it up. And it's also the only one I have in the original box, which I really am struggling to close. Okay, so in the back here, this is a figure from the movie Willow. Sadly, he is falling out. This is a toy figure carrying case for Star World. It's basically a ripoff of Star Wars. It's just made to cash in on the Star Wars name, or the feeling of Star Wars, because it's actually using the same font for Star. But I thought that was kind of neat. And I don't think I paid more than $5 or $10 for it. Just a random Matchbox. This is a new one, but it's a Buick Riviera. And that's called 83 Buick Riviera, because my dad actually had an 83 Buick Riviera. Not a convertible, though. So that's pretty cool. There's an old cardboard container for Diet Pepsi, which actually came with some Pepsi bottles, which is why I saved it. I generally don't collect just the containers, or the carrying cases. I would say this is from probably the 80s and sometime in the 80s. This is a little miniature guitar. I've had this since the 80s or 90s. Don't really know what it's from. Just a certificate of authenticity. And I thought it was cool. And I've kept it. I really don't throw anything away, as you might have noticed. Okay, next shelf. This Darth Vader here is new. And of course he was on sale at Walmart, so I picked him up. And I think he makes noises.
Together we can rule the galaxy.
So he was really cheap, and I think it's kind of neat. So I got it. This is a Brownie Hawkeye camera from the 60s.
Don't know the power of the dark side.
Alright, Darth, enough. We heard you. I got this one because this is the camera that my mom used when she went to the New York World's Fair in 1964. I actually have pictures of her holding a camera exactly like this.
Impressive. Most impressive.
Yes, it is, Darth. Thank you. But I'll be trying to do a video with my mom of what remains of the 64 World's Fair sometime later this year, preferably when it's much cooler. So that should be fun. And I'm going to try to match up the photos of her from the 60s with what's left today. So that should be kind of fun, I think. This is a BB-8. I guess it's a coffee cup, a really big coffee cup, that I got at Goodwill a few years ago for maybe, I don't know, maybe $2. These are new. These are from that Star Wars Micro Galaxy Squadron. I think that's what it's called. This is the AT-AT, which I love. I love the AT-AT. And of course I got two Millennium Falcons here. These are maybe from the 90s, 2000s. They're not brand new, but they're not particularly old either. And I got them cheap. I don't pay a lot for anything really. I think I paid between $5 and $10 a piece for these, I think. And then in the back here, this is another. Then in the back here, this is another figure carrying case. This one just says action figure, so it's very generic. But I think that's kind of neat when they're generic like that. I don't know. I just think they're neat. I don't know how else to explain it. And then this is a Darth Vader chess piece. This was made by some random guy on eBay. It's not really professionally made, I don't think, so it's not the best quality. It's probably 3D printed, I would guess. But it's not bad. I actually used this as part of a Darth Vader cosplay, a very low quality cosplay I did for work. And in the back here, it's kind of hard to see, these are some very old Christmas lights. I think I looked them up and they're like from 1917, I think. They still work. I plugged them in, but they're very scary when they're plugged in. They make a humming noise, and I wouldn't trust them for more than a couple minutes, but they do work, and they're really neat. Maybe I can take them out here. Okay, so here's those Christmas lights. They're a bright light decorative lighting outfit. And this is them. Again, these do work, believe it or not. And I think most of the bulbs worked as well. Because of course you can't replace these bulbs now. Or at least not very easily. This is just a random Spider-Man statue I got. Yeah, not even sure what it's from. Got it at a flea market. It was really cheap, maybe a couple bucks. But it's not terrible quality. And I would guess it's maybe 10 to 15 years old. Looks like it's from the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man days, based on his outfit. And this is new. This is Bowser from the Super Mario Brothers movie. He was on sale as well at Walmart, so I figured I'd pick him up. And he's really big. Like he's a big chunky boy. Okay, now the final shelf. What we got here? So there's a Teddy Ruxpin. I've actually got two Teddy Ruxpins. I've got another one in the Nerd Cave. I actually did a video with that Teddy Ruxpin talking. It was one of my first YouTube videos. So if you go way back to the beginning, you might find it. It got a decent number of views. It might be like 5,000 or 6,000, something like that. And that's what really got me going. When I saw how many views he was getting, I was like, hey, I can probably do this YouTube thing. Let's give it a try. But now, roughly, it's been like 5 or 6 years since I did that video, he just doesn't work anymore. He's been in the box the whole time, but he doesn't work. I know they can be fixed, but to fix them, I think you actually have to take his fur off, basically skin him, and fix him that way. And then it's not an easy fix, at least not for me. So I might do that someday, but not soon, I don't think. This one works partially. He makes noise, so the cassette player works, but his face doesn't move. His eyes and mouth don't move. And this is a barf bag I got fairly recently at Brimfield for the movie Mark of the Devil. It says this vomit bag and the price of one admission will enable you to see the first film rated V for violence. And then this here, as far as I know, is a salesman sample for a lock. And the reason I have this is because this was my grandfather's. From what I understand, my grandfather worked at a lock company in Bristol, Connecticut. And, you know, I put two and two together, and this apparently was a salesman sample that I guess he used. It used to have a key. I do remember a key on it back in the 80s, but at some point over the years the key got lost, sadly. So the main reason I have that is because it was my grandfather's. That's my other grandfather. This is the grandfather on my father's side. The radio I showed you earlier was my grandfather on my mother's side. This sailboat model here, this was also my grandfather's. And I don't know what this is. It kind of looks like an art piece of some sort. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's an art piece of some sort. Beyond that, I don't know. It seems to be laminate wood. And if anybody knows what this is, please let me know. I suspect it may be worth something, but I have no real idea. This is a Fisher-Price cassette player. I didn't have one of these as a kid, but my sister did, and I remember it being around the house. And I got this real cheap. Maybe, I remember I got this actually at Goodwill. I think they had it for, might have been $8, something like that. So not bad, and it's in really good condition. It's a little bit, no, it's not. I was going to say it's a little bit discolored, but I think that's actually the LED lighting here. So I like that. Then this Uncle Sam bank here is from 1976, which is the year I was born. And so I have a lot of 1976 stuff. This was actually in a suitcase in the attic at our house when I was my childhood home. It was in the attic up until maybe 5 or 6 years ago. So it was up there for decades. And we finally opened it up and found this in there, and it was in perfect condition because, again, it's been in a suitcase for like 30 plus years at that point. 30, 40 years actually. Yeah, 40 plus years. And he is very heavyweight metal. I've seen him at a few flea markets, and I've also seen another one that looks exactly the same, but it's made of plastic. But this one is metal. I don't think he's worth a ton, but I like him. And this is a Mickey Mouse Nutcracker. This one's not too old. He's not in the best condition, but I got him real cheap at a flea market. It says Saks Fifth Avenue on the bottom. It was originally $65. Not sure what year it's from. Maybe the 90s. But I think I paid $5 for him. Maybe 10 at the most. This is a Matchbox Super King. And it's still in the original box, as you can see. The box is a little bit beat up, but it's not bad. And this is from 1988. And I always loved the Ferrari Testarossa because it was in Miami Vice. And then this here, this is one of those things where I saw it and I was like, I don't know what this is, but I have to have it. So on the top it says, Detector Unit Chemical Agent Automatic Alarm M43A1. Serial number CDC 1653, lot number P27A, part number H5-15-8100, and it's from Brunswick Genuine Ingenuity. So I guess it's, as it says, it's a chemical agent detector. I'm guessing it would have been from the Gulf War in the 90s. And the thing that's a little bit concerning about it is that somewhere it said radioactive on it. Oh yeah, on the back, caution. Caution, radioactive material control disposal required. But I did open it up and I used my Geiger counter, and it is not giving off any radiation at this point, so it's safe. But when I bought it, I didn't have the Geiger counter, and I was like, I don't think I'll open that up quite yet. But I just think it's cool. I'm sure somebody will leave a comment going, why do you collect radioactive stuff? People have asked me that a few times, and I think I've said before, I can't really explain why. I just like it. And there you have it. That's the end of part 2 of my personal collections video. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, and hit that notification bell. I've got a lot more videos coming up, especially of flea markets, mall walkthroughs, store walkthroughs. And if I get to 40,000 subscribers, I'll try to do a tour of my nerd cave, which has other collectibles and a whole bunch of other stuff. So please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. But once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.